right? They get launched, and then they're most visible in those first couple of days, right? The first couple of days afterwards, and then they put up those shields, and they kind of get blocked a little bit.
Yeah.
So this is the view in our area. This was taken somewhere locally, and you can speak to that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Nice
that's a great
This is 5:05
shot,
this morning.
Okay, yeah. So just to kind of peel back what Tim was talking about, people always ask because they miss it and they want to see it again. You got to see it like a day or two after launch. When they first get deployed, they're in a long string like that. Right now, I think there's only 27 because they're larger, and what you're seeing is the reflection from the satellite and the solar panel reflecting off the sun. What happens is once they are tested and they start spreading out, they go into what's called shark fin mode. And the only way I can describe that is instead of the solar panel looking straight down and reflecting the light, it becomes basically thin and parallel to us, and we can't see the reflection anymore. So that's kind of what happens. But yeah, if you get these things like the day or two after launch, especially before or after sunrise or sunset, that's what you'll see. And it is freaky. Tim, I've seen it probably, I don't know, 50 times because I always kind of track them, but it's still, when you see it in person, you're like, wow, that is, if you didn't know what that was, you would think aliens were invading.
It's not natural. It's not a normal thing to see in the sky, and it's not even like looking at the space station, which kind of gracefully glides along. Yeah. These things look like they're racing. They really look. They have momentum to them.
The only way I can describe it looks like a space train. It looks like there's a train up in orbit going around us. It's the craziest thing when you see it in reality. So yeah, that happened. And by the way, we might have a couple more opportunities here, though. It's always kind of iffy as you get about 48 to 72 hours out. But there could be a couple more opportunities to see these go up. And obviously, anytime we get a launch, we'll try to let you know. But I think Saturday was a good example of just a 30-minute delay, Tim, was the difference between not seeing anything and seeing some spectacular. And sometimes it happens the other way where you think, oh, we're going to get this spectacular launch, and it gets delayed 30 minutes, and then it's too late to see anything. So with space stuff, it's even harder than forecasting the weather sometimes because you just don't know if there's going to be a delay or what's going to happen. You just got to pay attention day to day.
Yeah, it looks like the next chance to maybe see these guys, if they're still visible, would be 9:33 tonight, at least in my Greensboro area. It might be a different minute or two here or there, but you can try your luck if you don't have any clouds locally and see what you see. It'll be warm out there. Just look up.
I'm never opposed to people looking up at the sky at night. But Tim, thanks. We're running out of time tonight. We're going to probably be talking about this cool down and obviously more on the Wyndham as we get closer to the weekend. Thanks to everybody watching tonight. Vanessa Rufus is coming up next.
everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for Live Impact News. I'm Vanessa Rufus. Right off the bat, we want to start with some breaking news just into our newsroom moments ago. We received a tip out of Avery County and have confirmed, in fact, with the Regional Health District that there is a TB case, tuberculosis case, that has been confirmed up in the high country there in Avery County. And we're seeing, unfortunately here, more than 100 people, according to the health department there, might have had close contact with this infected person. We don't have a lot of information about who this person was, what kind of case this was. Did they contract the illness somewhere here in the States? Did they contract it overseas? We're not sure. But we can tell you that potential close contacts have been contacted by either a public health nurse from the health district, or we're actually seeing the Avery County school system getting involved as well with these notifications of potential exposure, which is interesting to us. I'm not sure if that's standard up there in Avery County for the school system to help the health department with these notifications, or if it means maybe there's some sort of school-related tie to this infection and potential exposures. Nevertheless, we wanted to share here, as you can see, some symptoms that you might need to know if you think you might have contracted this illness for some reason. You can see that there's a cough. At sometimes it might have blood. We're told by the health department that cough might last more than 3 weeks. There would be fever. There would be chest pain, weakness, fatigue. In some cases, there could be unintentional weight loss, poor appetite, chest pain, discomfort, and difficulty breathing. You might also notice in line with the fever, profuse sweating that happens at night. Maybe you or this person that you know is soaking the bed sheets with all of the sweat that they're putting out in the overnight hours. So once again, tuberculosis case confirmed up in Avery County, more than 100 potential close contacts of this person. If anyone has any information or you want to get some questions answered, maybe you think you have had contact with this person, you want to talk to the health district directly, they've actually opened a hotline. So they've got a phone number, and we can put it at the bottom of your screen in just a moment, but it's 828-737-6068. Once again, that's 828-737-6068. And the good news is the health department is reporting here that while most people may have had close contact with someone with active TB not getting sick, there are some that might be infected, but also it can be treated. So if this is detected early, and for example, you might get sick, this is very treatable, and you can also have prevention that can be given to prevent this from developing into what they're calling an active TB case. And it says people who are sick with TB can be treated with medicines and cured almost 100% of the time. As we get information here on this case coming into our Live Impact News studio, of course, we'll pass it along during our stream, and also we'll keep you posted during our regular newscasts here on the stream and on TV. We have our next newscast, of course, coming up at 11 o'clock tonight. Meantime, we're actually going to keep it here with the health front, because this is not the only health-related story of note that we've had today. For folks who might have missed it, we got some pretty shocking news about Colorado head football coach Deion Sanders. He had a press conference today announcing that he had actually been diagnosed with bladder cancer, and he had surgery to remove his bladder. Now, this obviously had us coming up with multiple questions that we wanted answered, really just about the disease. How rare is this? What do people need to know about the potential symptoms? How treatable is this? And could potentially Coach Sanders go on to live a relatively normal life after this surgery? So we spoke with an expert from one of our local health systems. With that, we want to kind of bring you up to speed with some of the insights we learned tonight. Take a listen. Well, folks, we have Dr. with Novant Health. Dr. Johnson, you are a urologic oncologist, so you can provide some insights on bladder cancer news that we saw from Deion Sanders. So I guess something like this
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to come speak with you guys today and share the good word. Typically, bladder cancer is found on a routine urine test, or somebody finds blood in the urine. So either they see it or they see red blood cells when they're getting a checkup with their primary care doctor. Occasionally, bladder cancer can be diagnosed when somebody has sort of bladder symptoms. They go to the bathroom a lot. They have pain with urination, and it isn't due to a kidney stone or a urinary tract infection, which then sort of leads to these urine tests.
So how common is, I feel like we talk about a lot of other cancers a lot, more than we maybe even hear about bladder cancer. So when I saw this news about Mr. Sanders and the fact that, it was an issue with the bladder, I went, wow, I don't think we hear about that a lot. Is it a relatively rare illness?
Yeah, absolutely. That's an interesting thing. Bladder cancer overall is the 7th most common cancer in the United States. It typically affects men more frequently, and so it's the 4th most common cancer in men. But overall, in the United States, there's about 85,000 new diagnoses of bladder cancer a year.
And is there any particular, I guess you might say cause or predisposition to this illness? Are there certain factors that might make you more likely, other than being a man, to have this cancer?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. The most common cause of bladder cancer by and far is smoking and tobacco use. Other causes of bladder cancer can be occupational. So, somebody who works around a lot of heavy chemicals, somebody who's a painter, traditionally hairdressers with a lot of exposures to those harsh chemicals. But unfortunately, there are a lot of causes of bladder cancer where somebody doesn't have any risk factors at all, and it just sort of pops up. And in the field of medicine, we just don't have a great answer for every cause.
And I guess on that note, knowing that, it seems like there could be certain factors that do play a role, but maybe still a lot of questions. Are there things that folks can do to decrease their risk of getting this type of cancer?
Yeah, absolutely. The first is stop smoking. Any tobacco use will increase the risk of bladder cancer. And then please don't start smoking. That's important to say. And then number 3 is, at the end of the day, good, clean living is good, clean living. So just doing everything you can to maintain an active lifestyle, a healthy diet will help no matter what.
Do you find that bladder cancer might go hand in hand with other types of cancer? For example, thinking of perhaps the kidneys, which eventually will filter product, if you will, to the bladder. Are there other, organs that kind of get tied in with a cancer diagnosis of the bladder if maybe the cancer is left long enough undetected?
Potentially. Unfortunately, bladder cancer, if left undetected and unchecked, if it is an aggressive variant, unfortunately, people typically don't have time to develop another form of concurrent cancer, lung cancer in smokers. But there are some folks that, again, do develop similar types of cancer to bladder cancer in the kidneys and tubes that drain the kidneys, and that's called upper tract urothelial cancer. And bladder cancer's formal name most commonly is urothelial cancer.
Are there, any lifestyle, things that folks need to know in the sense of, for example, Mr. Sanders talked about having his bladder removed. I guess what happens at that point? How do you replace the functions of a bladder, and what does that mean for somebody's lifestyle going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So bladder removal is typically a treatment for aggressive bladder cancer that has not spread. In short, my expectations for somebody where I remove their bladder is in a few months, I expect them to be back to normal. I expect them to be the head coach of a college football team. I expect them to lead a local business. I expect them to enjoy their life afterwards. With bladder removal, you can replace the bladder with some small bowel or large bowel, similar to a native bladder that somebody has, or you can divert the urine with an ostomy appliance. With both of these options, patients can still run, walk, jump, go to the gym, go swimming. I've got patients that scuba dive with these, and they do great.
That's incredible. The latter option that you mentioned, I feel like, and obviously not a medical expert, but I feel like maybe I've heard that mentioned if somebody also has, let's just say, like a digestive issue and they need to have maybe part of their digestive system removed. Is that the same? And I'm sorry, is it osteo what?
Ostomy.
Oh, so ostomy. Yeah, the bag. Okay. So it would live outside their body, like it would be outside their body on a regular basis?
Yeah, exactly. We can take a piece of small bowel and divert the urine to the skin, and then they just place a temporary bag over this area that collects the urine and is emptied every 4 to 5 hours, and works well. People recover well from it and they do well. And a lot of folks might have these, with digestive system ostomies or urostomies, urinostomy, underneath their clothes, and they'd be walking around at the mall. You'd see them out in public, and you just never know. So it is a very treatable disease. But I think the important thing, too, is even if it requires major surgery, and a lot of times it does, I still expect somebody to have a great quality of life and enjoy time with their loved ones and friends.
Yeah. I'm sorry if this is kind of like a weird, in the weeds, nerdy
You're
type
fine.
of question, but I get fascinated by medical stuff, to be honest. And, if you do have one of those bags, does your body somehow get cues that, for example, your fake bladder is full? Like, any other human being will get cues when their bladder is full and they're like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom now.
Yeah, and that's the really interesting thing about the human body. We're always learning, whether we're conscious of it or not. And so, if somebody does elect to have a new bladder made in their pelvis, which is where your bladder is with small bowel, they can get the sensation that they're starting to have increased pressure. And that's, at the end of the day, water weight, right? And then also, if somebody has a diverting ostomy appliance, that bag sticks to their skin, and they can kind of start sensing those changes that are happening and say, oh, like it's time to go empty the bag in the restroom. So yeah, they definitely can. Yeah, and again, it's a learning process. I think one of my favorite analogies is, I tell folks that need this, it's kind of like learning how to ride a bike. You're going to fall down, you'll get cut up, bruised, scraped, but with enough time, with enough practice, it'll just turn into second nature, and that's, a skill you'll always have.
Yeah. Really interesting, and also great to hear that the outlook is good, on that front of, basically learning to live with it and continue on with relatively normal life afterwards. We heard that the doctors in a press conference where Mr. Sanders announced this, surgery that he had to undergo, they used the word essentially like cured, it's beaten, is what they said. Is this a situation where, would he need any sort of follow-up to make sure that there isn't cancer elsewhere, or do doctors usually feel pretty confident once the bladder is gone that this is a one-and-done situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say it sort of all depends on the type of bladder cancer that Coach Sanders had, right? There are types of bladder cancer where we have to talk about chemotherapy treatments afterwards. There are types of bladder cancers where it's just routine surveillance. And of course, the aggressiveness of the cancer will sort of dictate that schedule. But, bladder cancer patients, we're typically following them for at least 5, usually 10, if not more years after surgery to ensure there's no recurrence.
Yeah. Anything that you want to leave us with before we wrap things up here, Dr. Johnson, whether, it's a message to folks at home who are hearing this story and going, wow, I didn't know this was a thing, or maybe anything general about the Sanders case?
Yeah, no, thank you. I'd say the first thing is, and I hate to sound like a broken record, please don't start smoking. If you are smoking, please stop or attempt to. And the most important thing, too, is bladder cancer can be a very serious diagnosis, but you're not alone. We've got a great team here. We've got a great community of folks that are bladder cancer survivors who go above and beyond and help new patients navigate through this process. And this is really a time where I think community makes a big difference, whether it's me, the surgeon, the medical oncologist, or the other staff members in the clinic.
Yeah. Hopefully, there's some positive that can come out of this, whether it's just awareness. Maybe somebody heard some of the symptoms you were describing and they go, maybe I need to get checked out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Dr. Kyle Johnson with Novant Health, thank you so much for your time. And we really appreciate your insights.
Yeah, absolutely. Y'all have a nice day. Thank you.
And with that, we do want to turn to that aforementioned press conference where we heard Deion Sanders breaking the news about this diagnosis. Alongside, we saw some doctors who, we alluded to in that interview with the Novant Health expert, had used the words cured and it's gone, it's beaten, to describe essentially the prognosis going forward. Let's listen in here, and as always, we'll break in with any big developments here on Live Impact News.
Well, mess it up. This is Dr. Concrasia. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Yes. And Lauren with a long last name. Appreciate you all coming today. Thank God that we're here today. We're going to get started with sort of like a timeline on what's all has been transpiring. I know you're probably thinking something's going to happen today that ain't going to happen. I don't know where you get the news from. But we're going to kind of break it down to you like we did our team. And it was so wonderful seeing the team yesterday. My God, it was so darn wonderful. Bucky compiled a wonderful video to let them know every step of the way so we wouldn't have to explain every detail. But it was phenomenal. I wish we could show you all that same video. It was extraordinary. I think Bucky's going to put it on his YouTube channel soon after this. But let's get started. Let's kind of give them, let's walk them through. Can we do that? Is that okay with you all? That we walk you through? Let's go, Law.
Okay, so as you guys know, Coach has his other health issues, his vascular stuff. So every year, Coach goes for a CT scan of his vascular pattern to make sure the blood clots are away. So with this scan, everything turned out really great from the vascular side. About 2 weeks later, we get a text from his primary care doctor that said, I need to talk to you and Coach. We need to refer you guys to a urologist. So about 3 days later, we go see a urologist. They go in for a quick procedure. The urologist told us, hey, within 10 minutes, I can tell you guys if he's going to need another procedure or if we just need to do these follow-up appointments. And the doctor told us, okay, you guys are going to need another procedure. I'm going to refer you to my colleague, Dr. Concrasia. But at this point, you have a bladder tumor. And from there, we'll go get it removed. And then Dr. Concrasia, it was, go ahead.
Yeah, so we proceeded with removal of the bladder tumor. It showed a very aggressive,
Let's go backwards because you guys gave me options that scared me to death.
Oh, well, once we knew.
We'll get there. I'll get there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We removed the tumor. It was very high grade, invading through the bladder wall, not into the muscle layer, something we call very high risk, non-muscle invasive bladder cancer. So we did discuss options. We discussed some options of treatment in the bladder, and we discussed bladder removal as well. Given his commitments to his family and to the team, elected to undergo a bladder.
Sorry about that, folks. We're actually working to put the Sanders press conference in the box where I am right now. While we have you, we got some severe weather in other parts of the nation. Tornadoes possible, hail reported in different parts of the country, so bear with us. We're going to switch me out, and we'll keep the other boxes up. There we go, folks.
It was transpiring, and he's been A1 and down there, just a blessing. Came to Texas to see me as well. But this was not an easy task because it was a changing kind of a lifestyle. And with Lauren and I coming from Jackson, this is how many surgeries?
As of from 2021, this is surgery number 14.
Surgery number 14. I had more surgeries out of the game than I did in the game. Like, what is going on? So, but they were so wonderful. You were such a blessing, guiding me to, taking me through, verbalizing every darn detail so that I could make an educated decision, which some didn't want me to go that way. They wanted me to go the other way. But I trusted and believed in you 100%. And the process wasn't easy. Just like there were some scenes that you saw, all the bull junk that transpired on draft day. It wasn't just that. It was just I knew as well I had a surgery coming up. My sons to this day don't know what transpired. I just told them something with my foot, again, because I wanted them to focus on making the team and not focused on dad. So they really don't know. My daughters do. And this joker right here, much love to my son Junior, who have not left my side since we found out what was taking place. Not one day. He's been with me here, been with me in Texas, been with me everywhere, every day, and I've seen his handsome face. And I love you to life, son, and I thank you for everything you bring to the table. But this wasn't easy. Men, everybody, get checked out. Because if it wasn't for me getting tested for something else, they wouldn't have stumbled up on this. And make sure you go to get the right care, because without wonderful people like this, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today, because it grew so expeditiously, I could say. But please get yourself checked out, especially African-American men. We don't like going to the doctors. We don't like nothing to do with a doctor. You know that. So I'm not just talking to the brothers. I'm talking to my Caucasian brothers, my Hispanic brothers, my Asian brothers, my everybody, and my sisters. And that's all, y'all. Get checked out, because it could have been a whole another gathering if I had. I'm thankful. It's been a tremendous journey. It's been tough. I think I dropped 25 pounds. I was like a Atlanta Falcon Prime at one point, and just dealing with the catheter, dealing with all the stuff that I had to deal with. And right now I'm still dealing with
Folks, this is Vanessa Rufus here in the Live Impact News studio. Bear with us. Just wanted to break in with this breaking update we're getting out of New York City. This feed literally just came into our Live Impact News studio moments ago. There's an active shooter situation reported in New York as we speak. We're told, according to NBC News, that at least one person, they are saying possibly a police officer, was shot at 345 Park Avenue. This is a location that is actually home to several multinational companies, including Blackstone, KPMG, and JP Morgan. We are still trying to get some more information here on the case, but once again, this is a situation that's very active, as you could see with our live images. Looks like there are multiple agencies responding in the sense of police. It looks like the fire department is on scene, maybe even medic. Kind of appears to be pretty chaotic, and bear with us once again, this is a raw, unedited feed. It looks like there's a reporter on scene maybe about to give a report here, so that's why we're seeing a woman standing in front of the shot. Okay, just getting word now a couple moments ago, NBC News updating its reporting here. At least one police officer and they're saying one civilian have been shot. This is according to two New York City senior officials, once again happening at this location at 345 Park Avenue, home to several multinational companies, including Blackstone, KPMG, JP Morgan. I see the reporters doing a mic check right now. Jeb, are you getting any indication that she's about to start speaking?
It does sound like she might be.
Okay, so bear with us, folks. Once again, we're kind of on their schedule and just taking their shot. Once the reporter begins her report, we're going to basically pull their audio up in full, and I will stop talking. Here's what we know about the situation. Shortly before 7 p.m., NYPD warned folks to avoid the area due to police activity. They said avoid the vicinity of East 52nd Street between Park Avenue and Lexington Avenue. They say expect emergency vehicles and delays in the surrounding area. There was a city alert that went out as well from emergency management. Similar advisory about delays, road closures, mass transit disruptions, and large police and emergency personnel presence. And this was related to an active shooting incident. So we are keeping an eye on this at this time. I know we broke in this, with this pretty quickly. If we can get back to some of our other stories, we certainly will just a bit later, but we want to make sure that we're keeping you updated here on Live Impact News with the very latest. Looks like the reporter's still standing by. Maybe she's awaiting an anchor to come to her and ask her questions, or maybe they have a special newscast that they're preparing for. They're going to cut in with some information for people there in New York City. Okay, so yeah, give us a moment here, folks. And bear with us again, as always. There's a reporter also that has told NBC News Network that police are keeping reporters back from the scene in some areas. I know this does appear as though the reporter here is pretty close to some of the emergency scene. I don't know how close she is, though, in relation to the actual active shooter scene itself, whether this is a perimeter where we just see a lot of emergency vehicles, but it's not close to the shooting, or if she's closer than maybe some of the other crews. There's a station reporter, Ida Siegel, who says that we're just one block shy of 52nd Street. Police are keeping people pretty far back, saying it's an active shooter scene still. And in fact, actually, she was reporting this and police were yelling and telling the crew members to move even farther back. So this seems to be a situation that is still well underway, still very active. Now we're learning FBI is getting involved. Okay, let's listen in right now, folks.
Comfortable with this location where we are now, which is 53rd Street, which is actually a little bit closer to the building in question, but we're in the middle of the block just before Park Avenue. And what you can see behind me here are a number of flashing lights, but also more importantly, a number of stretchers that are currently empty, but they're standing at the ready because at this point, nobody knows how many patients they might have to treat. So there are dozens, probably more, ambulances that have been called to this part of Midtown Manhattan to stand by just in case there are more people that they need to treat. What we know at this point, as you've been reporting, is that one police officer was shot. We know that there is an active shooter inside the building, and we know that there's a lot of chaos as law enforcement officers try to figure out exactly what they have in front of them and how to make this entire area safe. I want to show you this sort of black high-rise building that's just on the other side of Park Avenue here. This is not the building in question. A police officer on scene confirmed that for me. This black building is next door to a white-colored, potentially limestone building that is the building in question. But if you look in some of these windows, we've seen office workers looking out of those windows for the last half an hour, extremely curious what's going on, but I'm imagining also wondering if they are in fact safe, if they might have been told to stay in place. We know that people who are inside the building in question, where the activity is actually happening, we know people in that office building have been told that they cannot leave. It is not safe for them to leave. This neighboring office building, unclear what they have been told, but we have been watching people looking out those windows, presumably wondering what's going on and questioning their safety. Again, we pretty much have a status quo situation here. It's a lot of law enforcement officers who are, at the moment, quite frankly, sort of standing around waiting for direction, I would imagine. It's sometimes situations like this are wait and see. You have to imagine that they are strategically trying to figure out the best way to remove the danger that is, at the moment, we believe, inside of an office building on 52nd Street. But beyond that, we don't know very much. We don't know who this person is. We don't know what their motives might have been. We don't know how heavily armed they might be. You know, there are so many question marks that law enforcement officers have to take into consideration as they approach a situation like this. And so we simply don't have all of those answers right now. But we do know that Midtown East, at least Park Avenue in the 50s, is a frozen zone at this point. I can tell you that when I was over on Park Avenue, there is no traffic that's getting by. This street where we are, 53rd Street, is completely closed off. There are a number of pedestrians that are looking on, wondering themselves what has happened here and wanting to know, can they get through? Is it safe to be in this neighborhood? Just looking for any information, quite frankly, that we are also looking for. So right now, we're sort of in the same boat as a lot of the folks who are standing here on 53rd Street waiting to find out exactly what happened, who might have been hurt, who might be under arrest, or who they might be looking for. So all of those things are what's happening here on East 53rd Street, Rana.
It sounds like, folks, the anchor there is asking her a question, so sit tight.
Well, that's exactly it, Brenna. I mean, this is an incredibly dense business district in Manhattan. We're not so far from Grand Central Terminal, as you mentioned, and it is the time of day. I mean, a lot of people probably already left for home, but a lot of people have not. It's also clearly, July, the middle of the summer, so people are staying outside later. It's very hot, as you know, as we've been reporting. So there's a lot going on here. Now, in the perimeter of this frozen zone, I don't know. I can tell you that in the distance, I can see that I believe that might be Lexington Avenue where traffic is moving. I'm just guessing it might be 3rd Avenue. I can't be certain, but as I'm looking down 53rd Street, I do see traffic moving north. So that's a good sign that there is some traffic moving. When it comes to the southern parts of 52nd Street, 51st Street, 50th Street, I have not been down that far, so I can't tell you which of those streets are blocked off to traffic, vehicular traffic and pedestrian traffic. I can tell you at 54th Street, that is blocked off to traffic, and Park Avenue itself is shut down. I would say, as far as the eye can see, if you're standing at 53rd Street, although we are no longer allowed to be on Park Avenue, so it's difficult to tell at this point, Renna. You know what, Renna? I did not notice that. It might have been off in the distance, depending where my photographer, John Lyles, is focusing his camera right now. But I wouldn't be surprised if there are canines that are walking around, assessing the scene and just being of assistance to law enforcement officers who clearly care for their own safety in addition to the safety of all of the people who are at risk at this point. So you have to imagine that they are bringing out all of the tools they have at their disposal, and canines would be one of those tools. But yes, there are a lot of law enforcement officers who are out at the scene here, lots of ambulances, and just lots of folks standing at the ready. The FDNY is here, just lots of people here waiting for instruction to act if this situation escalates. Again, we simply don't know what's happening inside the office building where this all began. We know that a police officer was shot. Beyond that, we don't have a lot of information. But because a police officer was shot, clearly this is a dangerous situation. And we clearly know that someone who should not be armed is armed inside and using that weapon to harm others, including a law enforcement officer. So they have to proceed carefully. And it appears that that's what they're doing at the scene here.
Okay, folks, it looks like that reporter's on-scene report has wrapped up for the moment. I can actually probably shed a little bit of light on the anchor's question to her. It sounded like she was asking about canines. I actually just saw just a few moments ago NBC News posting a new update saying that it looks like police in the area are actually stopping and looking inside cars near the scene. So they seem to be looking for someone, and they might not be 100% sure that the person is still in the building. Or maybe there could be a second person involved. We don't know. But we can tell you that officers near this lockdown area have been stopping cars and looking inside. This is according to video that the NBC New York station is also getting. But there was one instance where they were actually seeing a police officer stop a taxi cab, and they had their windows lowered, and they were looking inside the driver's front passenger seat and the back seats with a flashlight. So they do seem to be looking for someone, and I wonder if canines might be involved with that search as well. Also, before we went in full to the report on scene, we briefly mentioned that FBI is responding, and so we can tell you, along with all of the local authorities there, FBI agents are responding to this skyscraper shooting. The Bureau's Deputy Director, Don Bogino, posted on X, quote, FBI New York field office management, personnel, and agents are responding to provide support at this active crime scene in Manhattan. Now, we wanted to share a little bit more as well about the building in question, the location of this reported shooting incident. So we mentioned that this is 345 Park Avenue. This is headquarters for the investment firm Blackstone. The building also hosts the headquarters of the NFL, Bank of America, and offices belonging to KPMG. Building's owner has been contacted by NBC News and Rudin Management. That owner did not immediately return a request for comment. And I know we're looking at some sort of image here, and I know Jeb, you've been saying that you can't get any audio from this feed. We're trying to figure out exactly who this person is. So hang tight for a second and let's see if we can get some more information. Unfortunately, as we said, the feed that we're pulling in, we've just lost audio for it, so we can't hear the explanation for the crews on scene and the crews in the newsroom. You found something, Jeb? Oh, perfect. Okay, looks like we've got the full feed now with audio. Let's join this continuous coverage in progress.
The gun had entered this office building, 345 Park Avenue, opened fire on a uniformed security police officer. He was paid to be added security at that building, we are told, that he is in surgery at this hour. This is all preliminary information and may change as police continue their investigation into whether this is a lone actor and what the motive may have been for this incident, this shooting attack at 345 Park Avenue.
To that end, Jonathan, we saw a few minutes ago with Checky Beckford's live shot, she was seeing what appeared to be officers searching vehicles as they were exiting that area. Not sure what they were searching for, but do you have any indication that there could be another person, another shooter potentially involved in this?
I think everything you're seeing, if this is a lone actor situation, everything else will be precautionary. That they have someone down, they believe, on the 33rd floor directly linked to this shooting incident. That is coming to multiple sources, both to myself, my colleague Mark Santia, my colleague Tom Winter.
Folks, if you're just joining us here on Live Impact News, you are seeing continuous coverage from our affiliate in New York City as an active shooter situation is underway at what we're told is a pretty prominent building housing multinational corporations, including Blackstone, National Football League, and Bank of America. We're going to listen back in with the reports on scene, as well as it looks like some aerial coverage with an anchor speaking over it there in New York City.
With an assault rifle into a midtown building, there would be concern. One, is he a lone actor? Two, has he planted any sort of devices? So all these sort of precautionary checks will take place with the NYPD, FBI, ATF, the fire department. All sorts of emergency teams will be on scene to investigate. Obviously, our hope at this point is that it is as reported to us, that on the 33rd floor, a man is down who's believed to be the shooter. And if that's the case, if he's a lone actor, things may be secure. But it is ongoing at this hour. It's too soon to say. But again, what we do know, at least what we know for sure, is one officer, one civilian shot. And we are getting preliminary information that on the 33rd floor, a man has shot himself, who may be the shooter. And again, there's this surveillance image that has been circulated among law enforcement of a man carrying a gun. But again, we do not have independent confirmation from multiple sources that he is in fact the shooter. But obviously, when you see an image like this that law enforcement is sharing of a man apparently carrying an assault weapon, it raises serious concerns as to what his motivations and possible involvement in the shooting may have been. So again, one police officer shot in surgery, a second civilian shot and injured. Condition, status, I do not have an update on that. And multiple reports, although we're awaiting official confirmation, that a suspected gunman has shot himself on the 33rd floor, and whether that is the same man or same person seen on video carrying a gun walking into the entrance or the apparent entrance of that Park Avenue and 52nd Street building. Again, that building offices of the NFL, KPMG, Blackstone, among others. So that is in part why you're seeing the enormous response. Now the question, is this workplace-related violence? Is this a random assault? Is this terrorism? Far too soon to know, because we don't know who the suspect is. We don't know if the situation is now stable. We are waiting to hear from the police and FBI and others for more information. Again, all of this is preliminary, and a lot of this can change. It's the best first round of information we are getting from our sources who are both on scene and at various headquarters regarding the response. Back to you, Rana.
Jonathan, let me ask you, we don't know, of course, at 6:30, 6:45, how many people, how many workers would have been in that building. Do you have any indication whether there were evacuations happening of the building or if people were asked to shelter in place? What do you know about the people who were and perhaps still are inside of that building?
I can't talk to what was going on inside that building, as I am sure it was an active and chaotic situation as police were trying to sort out what was happening and who was responsible. I can tell you in the neighboring buildings there were lockdowns and evacuations underway to shut down that whole area to keep people safe. We saw our own reporter being moved back a couple of blocks because of the concerns for the safety and the ongoing situation and search going on. But you can only imagine if someone goes into a office building at 7 o'clock at night in Midtown on a work Monday with an assault weapon and begins shooting, the type of scene, the type of tragedy that certainly could have happened. And again, it's unclear if the officer who was shot was able to return fire. Our very initial reports, one of the first reports we heard was that there was a back and forth shooting between police and the suspected shooter. But again, we've not gotten any sort of official briefing, so things can and do change. So please, a grain of salt with all of this information. It's the best we have at this time. One police officer, one civilian, both shot, and on the 33rd floor at Park and on Park Avenue of that building, 345 Park, a person is down with a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and they're looking into whether that is the shooter, the only shooter, and obviously they're going to search that building to see if there are any other victims. Again, that is the image being circulated among law enforcement as to someone to look out for. They are not saying he is the shooter, but obviously the image shows a man in a suit walking in with what appears to be a gun, and we are waiting to learn more about that photo that has been shared with us from law enforcement sources from multiple agencies. So that's the latest. One cop, one civilian at least, and the investigation very much ongoing with word that a shooter may be down from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you for the latest information there. We want to get back to the ground. Checky Beckford has been at the scene. And Checky, what can you tell us now? What are you seeing?
Yeah, Rana, piggybacking off what Jonathan was talking about, a lot of the movement here, we were closer to the scene over here, 53rd and Lex, and were moved several times to showing you the concern, the heightened awareness right now about the safety of this area in general. I want to show you here Lexington Avenue between 53rd and 54th has been shut down completely. And if you take a look over here, and this goes all the way down actually to about at least 51st to about 50th Street. Over here to the left, you'll see that people are basically sitting here waiting because they were coming out of the subway and were ushered out and told to head east, and basically have been waiting in that area, waiting to move for this since this happened and since this started. As you mentioned earlier as well, we did see officers stopping cars here along Lexington Avenue, driving south on Lexington Avenue as they were going by, stopping each individual car using a flashlight, looking inside, apparently looking for something or someone someone. There's been no clarification on why that was happening, but as you can imagine with the situation that they're dealing with right now, that they were possibly looking for someone else involved in all of this. That has since ended. They've since stopped doing that again. They've shut down this area completely. No more traffic here. Before it was jam-packed bumper to bumper as cars literally sat here like a parking lot waiting to go because of all the closures that have happened here in Midtown East as a result of all of this. But right now, again, the area completely frozen. We're being told to move back every couple minutes or so. We were, again, closer to the scene over here. You can see the flashing lights in the distance. That's going to be Park and 53rd Street. And again, if you go one block south, we're going to be at 52nd and Park. That is where that building is, 345 Park Avenue. Earlier, we saw people being evacuated from the area here on the other side on 53rd and Lex. And they were running out of the building at the corner of 52nd and Lex, and they were running out of the building. So I don't know if they were basically let out of the building at 345 Park, and then were brought down to the sidewalk here at Lexington, and then were basically able to get outside of the area. So people were running from a number of people running in single file, running behind each other away from the scene. It looked like they had been within that zone, and police were ushering them to safety. We've seen a number of police officers, tactical police officers in tactical gear with long guns, entering the area here. But as of right now, like I said, everything is basically frozen at this point as the investigation continues. People just right now at a standstill. No movement here on Lexington Avenue between at least 54th Street and from what we can see, 50th Street south of us.
And Checky, I want to ask you, because Jonathan Deans is telling us that his sources are saying that potentially this shooter has died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, but it seems from your vantage point that this is still a very active and serious situation, at least from the posturing of police officers on the scene. This is not over yet. Would you say that's correct?
That's right, Rana. So whether that is in fact the case, that the shooter is no longer with us, is deceased, police are taking this as though there is still a threat, at least from all of the shutdowns that we're seeing, all of the measures that they're taking of ushering people out of the area, keeping not only the press back, but public back quite a distance. We've seen more tactical vehicles and units continuing to go in, despite this word that the shooter has been, has possibly taken his own life. But they're still ushering people out of the area, still have the area on lockdown right now. Actually, if you take a look over here across the street, we'll have Oscar pan around here, you can see people being ushered east here on 53rd Street toward Lexington Avenue, coming from Park Avenue. So it looked like those people were kind of stuck in that area that was on lockdown, a block west of us, and now they're being let out finally. So there's definitely a direct path that they're being sent on. It's the area, though, is still locked down. So no word on if those people were in that building or if they were in a surrounding building that had been on lockdown, because a number of buildings in this area are on lockdown. People are just staying in their offices as they wait word that it's safe to come out. But as you mentioned, police still very much treating this like it is an active situation.
I'm sure a huge relief for those workers who are able to finally leave and get to safety. Checky, thank you so much. We want to check in again with News 4's Ida Siegel, who is also on the scene there. Ida, we saw earlier you were showing us people in an office building next door who were looking out, seeing what was going on. I'm wondering if those people are still there. Can you see if they've been able to leave?
Well, interestingly, Rana, the last time I checked that office building, I saw a custodian pushing what appeared to be a garbage can moving through, and significantly fewer people looking out the windows. So it looks like those people who were looking out, if they were told they couldn't leave, have been told they can leave, or perhaps they lost interest. But regardless, they're no longer staring out the window. So that's an indication that things might be starting to wind down. And I'll tell you, I was listening to Jonathan and his reporting about the possibility that the shooter is no longer with us, was taken out by a self-inflicted gunshot wound on an upper floor. You know, we're sort of seeing a more relaxed atmosphere down here on the ground as well. Once again, we're on 53rd Street, and Rana, you spotted that NYPD canine. Well, Afterward, I would say about 5-10 minutes later, I spotted what appeared to be a detective taking the canine back inside the police car. You'd imagine it's really hot. You want to make sure that the canine is okay and has enough to drink. But regardless, it seems like they don't need the assistance of that canine at this moment. We see a lot of people from the NYPD that are walking around, not running, but walking, which is also markedly different than the tone we were seeing maybe 45 minutes ago. It appears that perhaps they are at the investigative leg of this situation. But again, as Jonathan reported, we don't know if there was only a single active shooter or if perhaps there was another threat, somebody else who might be armed. And that's really, I would imagine, the primary job of law enforcement at this point, is to see if there continues to be a threat here. Again, public safety is their priority. They're looking to make sure that the person who is threatening public safety is no longer out and about and causing dangerous situations with that weapon. And so they have to freeze the entire area and make sure that this person was acting alone and make sure that, in fact, people are safe here. But, you know, you can see here on 53rd Street, they did just put up another piece of yellow crime tape. However, beyond that, there are stretchers that are empty. There are ambulances with flashing lights that are not moving. We have not seen any ambulances leave the scene, which actually is a good sign. You would think they'd have to transport more victims to the hospital if there were any more victims. But clearly, as Jonathan was reporting, we have one civilian who was shot, one police officer who was shot, who, as Jonathan said, is in surgery at this moment. And then we have the gunman himself, who apparently is shot himself. I don't know if we are reporting what his status is at this point, if he has lost his life, but again, a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So there's a lot of work to do on the scene here. Even if it looks like things might be winding down a little bit, there's still a lot for the NYPD to take care of and to do on scene. So that's what we're seeing here at 53rd and Park. Still definitely a frozen zone. People are at the ready, but it does feel like the atmosphere here might be a little bit more relaxed as we're learning that the gunman has shot himself. Rana.
Yeah, from a very serious situation, Ida, it appears, as you're describing, some signs of progress, hopefully some safety for the people who are working in those buildings, in particular working in that building, 345 Park Avenue. We want to check back in with our Jonathan Dienst, who has been talking to his sources about the investigative leg of this. Still preliminary, Jonathan, as all of this is still obviously developing.
Right, but I want to go back to that photo of the man with the assault rifle walking into the building. We now have from a senior official that is the suspected shooter who went into the building, began firing, shot a uniformed, paid detail police officer, critically wounding that officer, and then proceeding to shoot at least one, if not a couple of civilians inside that office tower. That senior official tells us that man there in the suit carrying the assault rifle later on the 33rd floor turned the gun on himself and took his own life. We do not have a motive for this shooting. New York's Governor Kathy Hochul on X a short time ago. I've been briefed on an active shooter situation in Midtown Manhattan. Please avoid the area at this time. The FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino on X saying the FBI New York field office has personnel and agents responding to provide support at this crime scene. So again, a senior official tells us this is the suspected shooter walking into the building around 6:30, 6:40 this evening, opening fire, shooting and injuring a police officer. That police officer, we are told, is critical condition, very critical condition, and that he continued to go on and shoot at least one other civilian, but we are waiting for additional details if there's a second or third civilians injured and the natures of those injuries. Again, did they come from the gunshots? Did they come from the stampede? All of that is being sorted out. But again, the investigation very much ongoing. The very preliminary information is this appears to be a lone actor situation. Motive appears to be unknown. as a precaution. The entire Midtown area near that building at Park Avenue and 52nd Street is shut down as the investigation is ongoing. As Ida Siegel and Checky Beckford have reported, police were seen searching cars parked nearby as a precaution to make sure nothing may have been left behind by this attacker. And again, the investigation very much ongoing inside that building. The corporate offices of numerous high-powered firms. You have Blackstone, KPMG, Bristol Myers, the NFL, all have offices in that building according to public records. And the police officer who is critically wounded, we are told was hired on their free time to dress in uniform and provide extra security at that building, at that scene, given the threat environment we now all live in. So again, one officer and at least one civilian shot, that officer in critical condition, and the lone gunman appears to have taken his own life on the 33rd floor. The investigation ongoing with police searching every floor of that building to look for any possible other victims, people in hiding, to reassure them and escort them to safety, and to make sure the suspect did not have any help or did not leave anything like a device somewhere left behind on one of the floors. All of that precautionary, but needs to be done when you have a man armed with an assault rifle walking into a corporate office on Park Avenue and 52nd Street just at the height of rush hour around 6:30, 6:40 p.m. and begins opening fire in the lobby of that corporate building. And somehow he makes it up to the 33rd floor, where numerous sources now tell us, and including one senior official, that the man seen in that photo carrying that gun turned the gun on himself and took his own life, and he is now dead on the 33rd floor. And we're awaiting an official victim count from the police department. The best we have right now officially is one officer in critical condition and a civilian injured as well. And we await to hear if second and third victims that we are starting to hear about, if that's the result of gunfire or of a stampede, and the nature of their injuries, hopefully they are not serious. Right.
And Jonathan, just looking at that photo of that suspect, just chilling, carrying what appears to be an assault rifle, but dressed in what appears to be at least partially business clothing. But to reiterate here, we don't know a motive. We don't know whether this man potentially worked in that building or in that area, correct?
We don't know anything about him just yet. We have not been told his identity. There is work ongoing. This incident still less than or about an hour old, and police and the FBI, ATF, others sorting through who this suspect is, the motive for this attack, and who the victims are, and obviously just securing and making sure everything is safe. But a shocking shooting incident along Park Avenue around 6:40, 6:45 this evening.
Yeah, and just from a Google search here, it appears the building is 44 stories high, Jonathan. So as you're saying, they're going to go through floor by floor, check for any other potential victims, check to see if this was in fact a lone actor situation, and to check if he potentially left anything behind. I imagine this would take some time.
And we just have an update from Police Commissioner Tisch, and she has posted, at this time, the scene has been contained and the lone shooter has been neutralized. Again, our best information is the shooter took his own life on the 33rd floor. That could be subject to change if somehow police confronted him and wound up shooting him. But our initial information was that he took his own life on the 33rd floor. There is no longer a threat, according to the police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, after a lone gunman entered that Park Avenue building and began shooting. Again, a police officer in critical condition, The civilian, we are waiting for an update. We are told that person worked in an accounting department for one of the firms in that building. And again, they had a major corporate office for major firms here in this city.
And that officer was already in the building, correct? Working, as you said, security detail. He was not responding to the initial incident, correct?
Right. What the NYPD allows is that officers in their free time and their off-duty time can earn extra money, and corporations can hire through the police department these police officers to stand in uniform to provide a visible security presence. And we are told that is what was happening with this officer, who we are told normally works out of a precinct in the Bronx, and that officer was shot, we are told, perhaps in the back. It is unclear if that officer was able to return fire, but we do know that the suspect then continued his way into the building, shot at least one other civilian, and made his way up to the 33rd floor. It raises questions. Did he ever work in that building? Did he have a pass to get through security banks? Did he hop over them, take an elevator up? All of these are questions. And again, what was the motive? Is this workplace violence? Is this a random act of violence? It is unclear. And we are waiting to hear from the police and the FBI and the mayor in terms of what has taken place and the enormous and rapid response to this lone gunman dressed in a suit, carrying an assault rifle, walking into 345 Park Avenue around 6:30, 6:45 this evening, and opening fire. He is now dead, that according to the police commissioner of the city of New York, and there is one officer, again, critically wounded, and one civilian wounded. There is a car that they are looking at to see if that vehicle is connected to the suspect. Did he drive here? That is something being looked at. We do not know that. We are waiting to hear, but that also could explain why some of the vehicles, our reporters out in the field saw police going car to car looking, and perhaps there is some either evidence or materials that point police to a vehicle nearby and to whether that belongs to the suspected shooter. We do not yet know how he arrived at Park Avenue and how he got into that building. All we have right now is that surveillance image that shows him apparently walking in with the gun, and a senior official saying he is the one who began shooting and then took his own life up on the 33rd floor.
And Jonathan, let me ask you about the conditions of those who are shot. You were saying the officer is critical in surgery right now. Do we know anything about the civilian, or the at least one civilian who was shot?
All right, I do not have an update on that civilian.
All right, folks, it looks like this situation is starting to come to a conclusion there in New York City. If you're just joining us here on Live Impact News, we'll get back to our feeds out of New York City as we see more developments. But if you just missed the latest recap here, it does sound like, according to the police commissioner there in New York City, this active shooter situation has been contained. And in their words, they called the suspect neutralized. Still trying to get some more information on all of that transpired. The motive, you heard them talking about, questions remaining about that, how the person got into the building, whether they had a connection to the building. But this is a skyscraper office, essentially, that houses several multinational corporations. We saw that NFL actually has an office in there. There's Bristol Myers Squibb. Blackstone has a presence there, and it sounds as well like there's a Bank of America branch inside that building. But unfortunately, a police officer apparently was working kind of security detail, if you will. They were working on the side as security at this building, was shot by this one gunman, according to authorities. That officer in critical condition, and at least one other person, a bystander, was shot in that building as well. We will definitely keep you updated if we get more detail, if we get new feeds. But once again, the suspect, according to the commissioner, police commissioner there, neutralized. The situation is contained. We want to talk about some of our headlines here in the Carolinas quickly for folks who are catching up, too, on what some of the latest is here in our area. We've got a crime scene that we've been keeping an eye on throughout the afternoon and through the evening out of East Charlotte. This is called a homicide investigation, according to CMPD, happened in the 4600 block of Coronado Drive. That is in the East Charlotte area. Sounded like this call came in just before 11 in the morning, and we did see a large investigative presence throughout the afternoon. Our Miles Harris covered this for us, reportedly hearing from medic that there was a call for an assault with a deadly weapon, and apparently the person who was wounded had already died by the time that medic arrived on scene. Lots of concerns from neighbors in the area, and we're still waiting to hear more from CMPD at this point. We don't know anything about the person who died, nor about any potential suspects in this case. They do say, though, if you know anything, that you can contact them. They're at CMPD or Charlotte Crime Stoppers at 704-334-1600. We're also seeing reaction pouring in today following a tragic situation from over the weekend. This was a crash that happened on 485 and sadly took the lives of 6 people, including multiple members of the same family. In fact, as we speak right now, there is a teenager who is fighting for their life at the hospital, and we're told they are the sole survivor of this crash. Our Jesse Pierre spoke with the family about how they're taking the situation and how they're getting through things right now. So let's listen to her report from today.
A family trip to Carowinds ends in heartbreak Saturday.
The world's turned upside down on us.
Now a family surrounded by pain and grief.
And it jumps from 1 in the accident being deceased to 6. Realization steps in and it smacks you hard. And then you know your grandchild's gone.
Authorities say on Saturday, 16-year-old Logan Sawyer was driving a Honda in the middle lane of the 485 between Wilkinson Boulevard and West Boulevard. They say he drifted into the right lane, hitting a van with 6 people inside. Both cars then veered off the road and slammed into a parked tractor trailer. Sawyer and 5 people in the van died. 23-year-old Taylor Willis, 27-year-old Samuel Holmes, their 2 children, 3-year-old Addison and 1-year-old Brenlin, and Taylor's 8-year-old nephew Cameron.
They was good kids. I mean, real good kids, and like I say, I'm gonna mess with real bad.
The only survivor, a 16-year-old girl, recovering at Atrium Health.
I was glad at least one was survived. I was relieved about that, but still tore up about the other one.
And we'll certainly keep you updated on this story as it develops. The other big headline we're seeing coming to us from the political front, and we do have, kind of as anticipated, we've reported in recent days that this was expected to be an announcement come today. Former North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper says that he is throwing his name into the hat, if you will, for the U.S. Senate seat that is going to be open once Senator Tom Tillis ends his term here. We mentioned before that Tillis has decided not to run for re-election, and so now we're going to see what's probably going to be quite a high-profile Senate race, maybe a lot of money spent, a lot of political advertisement here in the Tar Heel State. But former Governor Cooper, posting a video essentially on social media today saying, quote, "I've thought on it and prayed about it, and I have decided I am running to be the next U.S. Senator from North Carolina." As it stands, we're seeing him in the race. We are seeing Michael Whatley on the Republican side. He's the current Republican National Committee chairman, has received a President Trump endorsement. And so, yes, as we mentioned, a lot of eyeballs likely on this race and likely going to be a contentious and heated race. We spoke with Michael Bitzer, who is a political science professor over at Catawba College, about some of the implications of this new Governor Cooper announcement. And so let's listen into what he has to say about how this race will shape up.
The U.S. Senate here in North Carolina.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Democrats hoping to chip away at that very slim Republican majority. How does Cooper getting into the race help their chances there?
Well, I think for national Democrats, this was the prize that they wanted. Somebody who has won 6 times statewide, who has a very high name recognition, who will probably be able to raise as much money, if not more, than he possibly needs. These were all the kind of qualities that they wanted in an assured candidate for a very competitive seat that is now open because of Senator Tillis's retirement. I think that this will be a battleground type of contest moving into November of 2026. And I think, if Chairman Michael Whatley decides to jump in on the Republican side, he has Trump's endorsement. This will basically be two titans battling out for control of the U.S. Senate.
In his announcement video, he really, to me, was sort of trying to etch away at this stigma that Democrats face of them not being like the everyday average Joe type of person. And he has that in his background. Can you talk a little bit about his story and what makes him so unique for this particular moment?
Well, I think Roy Cooper has played upon in his past runs and successful statewide elections on a very kind of mainstream, moderate perception of his Democratic candidacy. And certainly the two parties have moved further and further away from each other, kind of leaving that middle ground uncontested at times. In North Carolina, that middle ground is very small in terms of electoral dynamics, but it is highly influential in terms of determining who wins statewide. And I think what Democrats are looking at in this state is they haven't won a federal election statewide in North Carolina since Barack Obama and Kay Hagan did in 2008. So Republicans have been able to hold a kind of stranglehold on federal elections. Democrats want Roy Cooper to break that stranglehold.
Now, how do you think that his time as governor will impact this race? Surely Republicans will be looking to that tenure to kind of poke some holes into his story.
We're already seeing Republicans use the governor's time in office, his 2 terms, to hit the governor on things like hurricane relief, perceptions of other cultural issues. So I imagine that this particular race will be one of the most negative campaigns run. Advertisements will flow freely into North Carolina over the next year and a half, and they will primarily be negative oriented. I think Republicans will use whatever they can against Roy Cooper and tie him potentially to national Democrats. Roy Cooper will try and probably tie whoever the Republican candidate is directly to Donald Trump, because midterm elections tend to move against the president's party. So this will be a highly negative campaign coming up that we've already started pretty much, and we'll see it play out over the next year and a half.
Yeah, North Carolina elections do tend to get very messy when it comes to ad dollars, for sure. I want to talk a little bit about Michael Whatley and how he compares. I know you touched on this a little bit, but why don't you tell me a little bit about how these two kind of stack up against each other?
Well, I think for Republicans, if he decides to get into the race, Michael Whatley already has a major accomplishment behind him, and that is the support of President Donald Trump. Looking back in 2022 and 2024, whoever Donald Trump endorsed in the Republican primary ultimately went on to win that party primary. So that holds gold status for Republican primary voters. Certainly amongst Republicans, Michael Whatley has a good name recognition. but he needs to broaden it out to the broader North Carolina statewide audience. And I think that that's going to be one of the key things he's going to do leading up to March's primary, is really introduce himself, what his candidacy is about. That will probably be the main message moving into next March, and then we'll see it transition into the general campaign for the fall of next year.
I want to get your opinion as we talk about how the Democratic Party is working to sort of reshape their identity after the loss that they experienced with Vice President Kamala Harris. How do you think that also kind of contributes when you think about this race with former Governor Roy Cooper, or do you think it compares? Because I would imagine that they would kind of be looking to this race as well to see how does a candidate with his type of background fare in an environment like a North Carolina.
I think certainly there will be a lot of Democratic strategists looking at this campaign to try and road test some potentially for 2028's presidential campaign. And I think, one of the key things is to try and reassure voters, to build back trust for the Democratic Party and for Democratic candidates, and not so much controlled by a small faction within the Democratic Party, but be able to speak to the moderate middle of American politics, and particularly North Carolina politics. What we've known is when Donald Trump was on the ballot twice in North Carolina, Roy Cooper was able to win in those same elections. So he's got the proven strategy and capabilities. We'll have to see if anything has shifted within the electorate next year. But my expectation would be Democrats will be looking at this to kind of reposition, to reframe, to develop a more broad messaging capabilities that could speak beyond what they saw in 2024.
The governor, or the former governor rather, he always talks about how he has only wanted to serve his home state of North Carolina, but we all know that he has had some political interests at higher levels, certainly potentially had the opportunity to be vice president. How do you think that this all lines up to his potentially greater goal of becoming president of the United States one day?
Well, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I think certainly at his age now, trying to vie for the U.S. Senate, and if he becomes a U.S. Senator, that will propel him into the national spotlight again, as he was in 2024. We'll have to see what the Democratic Party's resilience is to older candidates versus a kind of generational shift going on. My expectation would be they probably won't go older. They'll probably go more middle age in terms of a candidate for 2028. But certainly Roy Cooper would be somebody, if he is propelled into the U.S. Senate, that would then mean a kind of quick turnaround if he was to run for president in 2028.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think that covers everything. Yeah.
And we'll definitely be following this race very closely as we go into the coming months. We wanted to, folks, get back here to this breaking news out of New York City. We are still seeing some pretty scary situations playing out there with this lockdown that looks like it's still underway. Just to kind of recap what we know at this point, we've been told that an active shooter situation transpired at a skyscraper office building that houses many multinational corporations and other important businesses. Apparently there was an officer who was shot and at last check was critically injured, and there were bystanders that were also hit. Let's listen in here. It looks like we've got some reports coming in now.
Yeah, as we're speaking, Rana, more and more are coming out, trying to get some of them to stop and speak to us. We spoke to a young man just a little bit ago who came out from the scene here, and he said that he was having late lunch at a restaurant next door to 345 Park when he heard the gunshots. He said he heard several gunshots. He thought it was a car backfiring, and that the security of that building immediately locked the doors. He realized what it was, locked the doors, and he saw about 40 to 50 police officers running into the building at the time. So he said, of course, he was visiting from Orlando with his mother and was obviously obviously very surprised, anxious about what was happening on this trip, this tourist trip of theirs, literally right up next door to them. So yeah, as you mentioned, right now we had to move a block north to 54th and Lex, where these people, who were in the buildings earlier, are being let out. This is where they're coming down 53rd Street. They're being sent north here on Lexington, and this is where they're able to exit and go to wherever they need to get to try to get home. So we're seeing more and more of them coming out. As Jonathan mentioned a while back, that when there was word that the shooter had been neutralized, it seemed that was when the situation started to pick up. We started to see more and more people being let out of the area that was essentially on lockdown, heavily guarded by police and ESU units and so forth. But right now, some of those people, as we mentioned, we've seen dozens and dozens so far. So I can imagine that it's quite a number that are being let out of the buildings. And it wasn't just the buildings right adjacent to the 345 Park address. We're talking about buildings. This building right here on Lexington. We saw people finally being let out of this building as well. Now that the situation has been deemed safe.
Are you seeing, Checky, any roads reopening in the area? This was a large area that's been blocked off for some time now. Anything that you can see from where you are?
Yeah, I think so. I just mentioned we're at 54th and Lex, and we are now seeing traffic being allowed to head east here on 54th Street. Before, when it seemed like it was shut down completely, so there's that situation, but still not being allowed to head south on Lexington or in that area by 53rd Street at this point. Also, even 54th, where we are to the west here, is still shut down. But cars are being allowed to head east make a left turn off Lexington onto 54th Street to get out of the area, but still a number of roads, blocks shut down in the Midtown East area. So if you're planning to come into this area, it's still not a situation you want to be a part of.
Yeah, Checky, I want to ask you a little bit more about your interactions with some of these workers who are being let out. Of course, some of them must be terrified, or some of them must have questions about what was going on. Can you tell us any more about what they were saying? Did they seem like they were scared? Were they curious about what was happening? What more can you tell us?
The one person that we spoke to, the main person we spoke to, the young man obviously was scared, and he had been in that restaurant, was basically kept in that restaurant for a number of hours while this was happening, and didn't know what was happening, obviously, but he had heard that gunshot and had been told that there were gunshots by a security guard in the building, and of course then became terrified. We talked to another man who was in an office building, not on the same block, who seemed to be taking it pretty much in stride. He said he basically just stayed in his office. He didn't really look too much. He looked at the news sites quite a bit, but not too much. He didn't want to get himself worked up about the whole thing, and waited until they told him it was safe to leave.
Okay, still developing out there tonight. Checky, thank you so much. We want to recap what we know at this time. Again, this is a shooting that happened inside of an office building, the address 345 Park Avenue, just after 6:30 this evening. A senior official that's familiar with this matter told us that a man armed with a rifle walked into that building. We're told that he shot a police officer who was there in the building working security detail, and at least one civilian. That officer, we are told, is in critical condition, in grave condition, as Jonathan described. Police saying that they found that suspected shooter with a self-inflicted gunshot wound on the 33rd floor. Police telling us it appears to be a lone actor situation. They don't appear to be looking for anyone else in this. We've learned that Mayor Eric Adams is on the scene there. We don't yet know a motive for the shooting. We don't know if this person worked in the building or worked in the area. You can follow along with the latest on our website, NBCNewYork.com, and wherever you stream News 4.
All right, folks, there you have it. Coverage wrapping up in New York City, courtesy of our affiliate there, NBC News affiliate. We are going to stay on top of the very latest with the situation. It does appear to continuously it continues to develop here, I should say, and we are trying to get updated status here of the police officer, just because, as you mentioned, or you heard mentioned by the news team there at WNBC, last check, the police officer was in grave condition. Not a great condition to hear for police officer. Are they turning over to their streaming coverage now? Okay, looks like we've got the coverage back, but they just basically pivoted off of television onto streaming. So we're going to join with that now. And it's now picked up again there in New York City.
Talking to his sources who are close to this investigation. Jonathan, give us an update on what we know at this point.
What we know is that one police officer is in grave condition from the Bronx. A second civilian is shot and wounded, and that there are a couple of other injuries. At this hour, it is unclear if those are related to the gunshot, and that the shooter himself is now deceased on the 33rd floor from what appears to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The police commissioner confirming the threat is now over, that this was the work of a lone actor. We have some information that suggests the suspect has a residence in Las Vegas, Nevada. We are not going to name him or show you the photo yet of his ID, as we're still working to get multiple confirmations from law enforcement. But this man has an address from Las Vegas, and there is that surveillance camera footage that showed him walking into the entrance of that Park Avenue building around 6:30, 6:45 this evening, carrying an assault rifle, and then opening fire. He shot the uniformed police officer who was working there, sort of extra duty, getting paid to be a visible presence in their off-duty hours. And that officer is in critical condition. The suspect then continued shooting and managed to work his way up to the 33rd floor, and then apparently took his own life with that assault rifle. There are images from inside the building that show people barricading furniture to try to keep themselves safe, with the sound of gunfire reverberating throughout the building. And we are awaiting word from officials, and the mayor is posting a statement to X right now with his statement, which we'll be able to bring to you in a few moments, that he is on scene dealing with this crisis. The NYPD is leading the investigation. The FBI is on scene to assist. The motive for this attack is unclear. Again, at least 2 people shot. That officer, extremely grave condition as they were rushed to an area hospital. And you can see quite a response, and that entire Midtown area at 52nd and Park was shut down and continues to be shut down with this major investigation ongoing. That building at Park Avenue and 52nd Street, again, houses the NFL, KPMG, and some other major offices inside that building. And that a gunman with an assault rifle in Park Avenue in daylight during the evening rush would walk in and begin shooting. Obviously, this is a shocking incident. It appears the suspect may be from Las Vegas. We're working to get additional confirmation of the name and photos that we have. Rana.
And John, I know this is Natalie. I know you're working to get more information specifically on that suspect. Just to clarify, so you're saying he walked in, you believe he shot the officer right when he walked in? Was it right outside the doors? Do we know exactly where that officer was who was on paid duty? The
best information I have is that they were in the lobby.
In the lobby.
But again, can I say it is in fact to the ground floor lobby versus the 33rd floor? I don't know. My belief is it's the lobby of the building, and then he worked his way up to the 33rd floor. Obviously, we will await a word from officials for more of the details from what went on inside that building. But again, they had to go floor to floor, try to make sure everyone was safe, determine this was a lone actor, and then get all the people who were barricaded inside out safely. And again, the police commissioner posting on X that this appears to be the work of a lone actor.
And this officer, as you're saying, regularly assigned duties, they work extra to make money providing security for places.
That's right. We see that in many buildings across the city that is allowed, where it's in cooperation with the police department, that officers can be hired in their free time to work in uniform to provide that extra visible presence in major buildings that pay for this service. And the officer earns some extra money as a result of that service. And the suspect, again, taking his own life up on the 33rd floor. That officer, as I've said repeatedly, grave concern as they were rushed into surgery, assigned to the Bronx, and we await official word on the condition of that officer. And again, at least one civilian injured. We heard as many as 2 others, but those 2 others, we don't know if they were from gunshots or from the stampede and the concern given the panic that must have been going on inside that building as a man with an assault rifle walked in and began firing.
You talk about that panic, Jonathan. Checky Beckford had just sent an email saying she just talked with somebody who was coming down the escalator when they heard shots. Said another person told them 2 people were shot in the lobby. This is all hearing from people there on the scene. You can only imagine what these people in that office building were going through earlier this evening when this all went down. Still developing, of course.
Yeah, absolutely terrifying. At this point, we're still waiting to hear whether the people in that office building were all allowed to leave at this point. We're not sure if any of them are still sheltered in place. We know the police are saying that the shooter has been neutralized, as they're saying, died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, but we don't know yet if they're done searching the building and if the people inside have been allowed to leave.
And in this day and age with cell phones and everything, I'm sure we're going to be getting video coming in. As Jonathan Dean said, people were piling up furniture, barricading themselves inside when you hear gunshots like that. And we don't know exactly how many floors he was on. Did he go straight up to the 33rd floor? What exactly went down, or exactly how many people were injured in this shooting? But we do know, again, at this hour, what is confirmed is that police officer on paid detail in critical, as Jonathan says, grave condition at this hour.
Yeah, and we don't know how the shooter was able to access these floors. So many of these office buildings have security measures in place where you can't even access the elevator unless you have
a code,
a badge or a code. So we're not sure yet how they were able to perhaps force their way onto to an elevator to get to the 33rd floor of this building, or perhaps they had access a different way. But officers responding to the scene found the gunman dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound on the 33rd floor of this building that houses some pretty major businesses here in Midtown. 44 floors of various businesses that share this office building, 345 Park Avenue.
I mean, Miranda, similar to the building we work in here at 30 Rock, anybody who's visited Midtown, who works in Midtown, who has lunch in Midtown, you know just how busy it is right at rush hour when everybody's coming through that way. To see something like this happen, and just truly haunting to see that picture of that, if we have that picture to throw up, of the suspected gunman with an assault rifle by his side. There it is, right there. Like you said earlier, Ren, I was listening to your coverage. You're talking about how he looks to be in normal, everyday workwear with an assault rifle by his side.
Right.
So it does track with what Jonathan Dean said. If you're coming right in the building, if there was just one officer and they were right there in the front, depending on, maybe was how he was able to get in and get up so quickly.
They would have been the first person to confront that shooter. And again, this officer is in critical condition. Jonathan is describing it as grave condition. We saw our Chris Glorioso at the hospital about 20 minutes ago or so, showing us the response at the hospital. Officers there wondering how their fellow officer is doing, showing up to the hospital, trying to get an update on their condition. We want to get back to News 4's Jonathan Dienst with an update on the investigation. Jonathan, what can you tell us?
Okay, we will now report that the officer has died. We had been asked to wait until the family was notified. The family has now been notified. We're told they have arrived at the hospital, and the police officer was shot and is now dead in this shooting. We are now told from law enforcement officials that there are 4 other victims who have been shot. The degree of no one is deceased. We are waiting to hear the level of seriousness of those injuries. That from one senior official. We had heard as many as 2 or 3 others. So preliminary, we will go as they continue to sort this out, and these numbers may change. They may go up, they may go down, but that originally we had 1 civilian shot and 2 others injured. We are now hearing as many as 3 others injured, and all were from gunshot-related injuries. We will await official word from the police and the FBI, who are investigating and dealing with this. We are also told they are looking to the suspect, and we've had that photo and we've shown it to you several times. There he is. That's been circulated among law enforcement. That is the man who multiple officials say entered the building carrying that rifle and began firing, shooting and killing the police officer and injuring 1 civilian, perhaps as many as 3 others with gunfire before going up to the 33rd floor and taking his own life. We have a photo of him up there on the 33rd floor. We're just working for additional confirmation of that end result of that shooting. We also have photos that, again, we are working on that appear to show in several of the offices the workers barricading themselves behind closed doors amid the gunfire, amid the concern, amid the panic. And we are working to get just additional confirm of which firms these are, exactly what floors they are, before we begin sharing those photos. But obviously a very troubling shooting incident in Park Avenue in Midtown at the tail end of the evening rush hour, 6:30, 6:45 on a Monday evening. A man in a suit with an assault rifle walks into a lobby, shoots a police officer in uniform, shoots at least one other civilian, works his way up to the 33rd floor, perhaps additional shots fired up there before he turns and takes his own life. This building, offices of the NFL, KPMG, Blackstone, other major firms in this Park Avenue building. This is prime New York City real estate. This is the heart of Midtown. Park Avenue shut down, a major crime scene at this hour. Police, FBI, ATF, FDNY ambulances on standby as a precaution, as workers obviously now being taken out, escorted to safety, because, as the police commissioner noted on Twitter, the situation is now under control, as it is the act of a lone gunman. We have information coming in, preliminary, but coming in, that this suspect may have a Las Vegas address. It is being run down by law enforcement at this hour. We have a name and a photo that goes with it. We're not going to share it until we have official confirmation, and then we could perhaps learn more about this suspect's motive as to why he went into this building in Midtown and began shooting and shooting apparently victims at random.
So, John, just to clarify, you did confirm that sadly the officer was shot and killed, and you said you believed 3 or 4 other victims shot and injured.
We were told originally it's 1 other civilian shot and 2 others injured, unclear. Okay. We just heard from a senior official that there are 4 other civilians all shot, but that is single source. It is a top official. So I feel comfortable sharing that number. Okay. But again, I just caution these numbers, as we've heard throughout the couple hours we've been on the air now. These numbers can and do change. We are in the first stages of reporting this out. So just everything is preliminary, grain of salt. It's the best information we have at this hour.
Okay. Jonathan, we appreciate your reporting and that sad update.
For folks who are just joining us here on Live Impact News, I'm Vanessa Rufus inside the Live Impact News studio. We've been listening to continuous coverage from our affiliate there in New York City, as we are just now hearing moments ago, sad update to this active shooter scene that took place at a high-rise building in that Midtown East neighborhood. Unfortunately, an officer who was shot during that active shooter situation has died from their injuries. And we're told that officer was actually not working for the police department at the time specifically, but was doing a detail security job for the building itself to show a presence and make folks feel safe and obviously keep security locked up there at the building. But This is also a building that we're seeing lots of large corporations either headquartered or having a presence. We talked about the NFL being housed out of this building, the fact that there's Blackstone, KPMG, Bank of America has a branch there, we're told, and Bristol Myers Squibb, the pharmaceutical company, has a presence there as well. Still trying to get some more information about the 4 other people who were injured, but we do know, based on the reporting there from our affiliate, that those 4 people do have injuries because of the shooting. There was initially some question over whether there could have been, due to a stampede, injuries related to that, but we are hearing that those were gunshots that wounded those folks. And the suspect in question, based on some sourcing from our affiliate there, might have been originally from Las Vegas and had taken his own life after opening fire inside that building. Sounded like a lot of this happened in a lobby and also on the 33rd floor. So some questions remaining there. We heard reporters and the anchors there questioning how the person was able to get up in the building. As we know, sometimes these high-rise buildings do have key cards or special access codes to even try to access the elevator. At this hour, looks like there's still some lockdowns underway. We've got some live images we continue to watch here as some traffic is now being able to move through certain areas, but not all. The investigation, of course, will continue. We actually just saw the New York City Mayor Eric Adams posting on X just a few minutes ago that he was there on the scene, and he actually told folks, those who are in the building, we are asking you to remain inside. Police officers are doing a floor-by-floor search, obviously in the essence of being extra careful that there aren't other threats that might be in the building. But as we mentioned, to our knowledge, based on reporting on the scene and what officials have shared, seemingly just one lone gunman involved with this case. We're going to, of course, keep you updated as we get more information there out of New York City. Certainly a sad day that we're seeing, though, with once again an officer now confirmed dead following this active shooter situation. We did get some breaking news earlier this evening. We wanted to recap it for you folks here. If you are just joining us on Live Impact News, it is on the health front. We actually just got some information from the regional health department, health district there in Avery County, covers Avery and Mitchell counties, essentially saying that there's been a confirmed case of tuberculosis in the county and that there might be upwards of 100 people who are considered to be close contacts with that person. We don't have a lot of information about who the person is, how they might have gotten sick. But we do know that the health district itself, Toe River Health District, and the Avery County school system, which is interesting, have been involved with contact tracing and notifying folks who might have been exposed to this TB case. We don't know if the school system is involved because the person infected was a student or there was some sort of exposure that happened in a school setting. But it is important to note that it's not just the health department that is involved with contact tracing. Avery County Schools also doing the same. Some information you should probably know too as far as symptoms are concerned. This is a respiratory type illness, so there is a cough. It is an airborne illness, so that's how it's spread. If someone coughs, the particles do get into the air and that can infect other people. The cough could involve blood. It could last for a long time, maybe even weeks on end. There's usually a fever. You could even have night sweats to the point where the bed sheets get soaked, according to health officials. And you could also have a poor appetite and start to lose weight. Chest pain, discomfort, difficulty breathing. Any sort of concerns, or if you have any questions related to this case, you're urged to contact the Toe River Health District. They've opened up a hotline for folks who want to call and ask some questions. That number is 828-737-6068. Once again, that's 828-737-6068. If we learn more about this case, we'll certainly pass it along. But once again, Avery County, tonight we've learned, reporting a tuberculosis case with upwards of 100 potential folks being close contacts of the situation. All right. Where shall we go now, Jeb? Okay. It's hard to keep track, but for those of us who were here in that 7 o'clock hour before we got into all of the breaking news and into some of our top headlines, we're actually in progress listening to Deion Sanders talking about this kind of shocking diagnosis and medical procedure that he had to go through following bladder cancer, and it was a surgery that he said basically cured him. They feel like he's in the clear. So we're going to join that briefing from earlier today. In progress, once again, we're kind of jumping in right in the middle where we left off, probably more than an hour ago at this point. And anything big and breaking, of course, we'll pop back in here on Live Impact News.
It was so wonderful. You were such a blessing, guiding me to, taking me through, verbalizing every darn detail so that I could make an educated decision, which some didn't want me to go that way. They wanted me to go the other way. But I trusted and believed in you 100%. And the process wasn't easy. Just like it was some scenes that you saw, all the bull junk that transpired on draft day. It wasn't just that. It was just I knew as well I had a surgery coming up. My sons to this day don't know what transpired. I just told them something with my foot, again, because I wanted them to focus on making the team and not focused on dad. So they really don't know. My daughters do, and this joker right here, much love to my son Junior, who have not left my side since we found out what was taking place. Not one day. He's been with me here, been with me in Texas, been with me everywhere, every day, and I've seen his handsome face. And I love you to life, son, and I thank you for everything you bring to the table. But this wasn't easy. Men, everybody, get checked out. Because if it wasn't for me getting tested for something else, they wouldn't have stumbled up on this. And make sure you go to get the right care, because without wonderful people like this, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today, because it grew so expeditiously, I could say. But please get yourself checked out, especially African-American men. We don't like going to the doctors. We don't like nothing to do with a doctor. You know that. So I'm not just talking to the brothers. I'm talking to my Caucasian brothers, my Hispanic brothers, my Asian brothers, my everybody, and my sisters. And that's all, y'all. Get checked out, because it could have been a whole another gathering if I had. I'm thankful. It's been a tremendous journey. It's been tough. I think I dropped 25 pounds. I was like a Atlanta Falcon Prime at one point, and just dealing with the catheter, dealing with all the stuff that I had to deal with. And right now I'm still dealing with going to the bathroom. Like, it's a whole life change. Like, I can't, and I'm gonna be transparent, I can't pee like I used to pee. It's totally different. And she not only is a blessing, but she provided other persons that have gone through what I've gone through, so that I could talk to them and get some solace and understand like what I'm facing, not just from a doctor, but from another individual. And the half that hadn't been told, like, it's a totally different life. I mean, thank God. I depend on depend. You know, if you know what I mean. I truly depend on depend. Like, I cannot control my bladder. So I get up and go to the bathroom already 4 or 5 times a night. But then I'm sitting up there waking up, like my grandson. We in the same thing. We in the same problem right now. We going through the same trials and tribulations. We're trying to see who has the heaviest bag at the end of the night. Like, it's ridiculous. But I'm making a joke out of it, but it's real. Like, it is real, it is real, it is real. So if you see porta potty on the sideline, it's real. Okay? I'm just telling you right now, you're going to see it. You're going to see the practice, you're going to see one, because it's unbelievable. Like, dozing off, waking up, first thing I'm grabbing my if I peed on myself. And it's just totally different. And I know there's a lot of people out there going through what I'm going through and dealing with what I'm dealing with. And let's stop being ashamed of it. And let's deal with it. And let's deal with it head on. And there's so many opportunities out there to do a wonderful job. But I'm thankful that, we have a relationship with Depend, and we're making some other products, trying to make other products that to help all of us through. But it's it's been tremendous. These two, Lauren came down to Texas and was there with me during the whole way, up walking our miles in the morning, because Doc made sure you better walk, you better be active, and we did it until it was some points that I couldn't even get out of the bed for a week at a time, you know, but she was there. I remember yelling 2 o'clock, Lauren! You know, because I had 2 bags, right? One was what?
Both were urine, but one was filled quickly. Very quickly.
Yeah, like blood in urine. It just looked bad, you know, and I'm fishing with 2 bags. You know, I'm trying to make life happen and couldn't come around my team, and I wanted to be here with my team. I wanted to see the new talent that we brought in. I wanted to see them work, see them train, coach them, and I couldn't, but slowly but surely I built myself back up. I'm able, I'm strong, I'm ready. I'm still probably about 12 pounds down. I'm going to get that right. I'm going to fill these overalls up like no other. But I'm truly thankful that God is so good. God is so good. You have no idea. You have no idea how good God has been for me to be here. You have no idea. Thank you. Thank you both for everything. Let me add this for all you people that get upset when I start talking about the Lord. I never once through this whole journey said, God, why me? Because I would have to say, God, why didn't you sit me up here in front of these wonderful people? Why you give me the position of the head football coach of the prestigious university? Why you allow me to father 5 wonderful kids? Why you give me these relationships with these wonderful people? Why me, Lord? Did I have some of the things that I have? I can never say that. I can never say the other side because I'm going to have to ask that. I said, Lord, whatever it is that you're doing, let me know what it is so I could expedite the process. Because I know you got me. I've seen you have my back. I've seen you there in the midst of storms when nobody knew I was going through hell. I've seen you guide me and bring me through. Lord, I would never say why me, but let me know what I need to do so that I can help. And there's some people out there right now with the same issue, are affected by that C word that we usually, when we hear that word, is normally a life sentence attached to it. But not this time. But not this time. Because God got me. And I don't take it for granted. I don't want you to take it for granted. Anybody out there, I don't want anybody to take it for granted. Because it's real. Everybody in this room, I guarantee you, have been affected by that C word somewhere in your life. Some parent, some friend, some loved one, somebody has been affected or infected. Some people have beat it. We have a player have beat it on our team, right? Family members have beat it. And I be darned, I think I will have a wonderful team, ain't it, Doc? We gonna beat it, ain't we?
It's beaten.
It's beaten. Amen. Constance, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I thank you, Sam. Everybody in my corner on my team. I thank you for this wonderful university, for backing me, just giving me time to heal and to come back, better than ever. Now, questions. Let's go.
Sorry, Romy. Coach, wonderful to see you.
Wonderful to see you too, Rob.
Congratulations on the great
news. I see you've been cheating on us with the Broncos.
Well, but not today. I left that.
I appreciate that.
Always. A question for you, and also a question for Doc. For Doc, just curious, moving forward, what does this look like? Does anything change in regard to his day-to-day? And then, Coach, as you look through, you're talking about you never said
one at a time, bro.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember that kind of stuff.
All right.
Day-to-day, I think, will, for most patients, becomes just a new way of life. But outlook, very good. We'll just keep them on routine surveillance scans. Other than that, nothing else.
And help me with this.
Coaches,
you guys think a plan. Like, I'm too old for this.
As you look back, and you said you never ask why me, you've always been this very positive person. When you look at the challenge outside of the physical challenges, kind of mentally, emotionally, what has been the biggest challenge for you in this process?
Getting people to understand that it ain't about me. It's about y'all. Everything I deal with is like a tool to reach more, to affect more, to challenge more, to love more, to give more. That's what this is about. This ain't about me. Because for me to go through this, the devil had to ask God, have you considered my servant Brian? That's Bible if you don't know. Go ahead and try it. I know he gonna praise me. I know he gonna magnify me. I know he gonna glorify me. And that's what has transpired. So I don't mind going through the afflictions I go through because I know the result. And we helping some folks today. There's some folks right now calling the doctors, scheduling checkups. There's some wives out there saying, baby, I told you. It's some whosoever wills that ain't been to see a doctor in years, but they gonna go get a checkup. Because if it could happen to Prime, baby, it could happen to you. That's what they're saying. They may not have the speed. They may not have the ability to maneuver, but they got that will to make it. That's why. Miss you, girl.
Hey, Coach, over here, sorry. Pat Graham, Associated Press. Two-parter. I'll just ask the first one first. And that's, you had a very powerful video yesterday your son put out about, planning for a will and how emotional that was. Can you, going back to that moment and to this point and being cured in this announcement, could you have imagined this point? And what was that like when hearing the words, hey, this is cured? What did that mean to you?
Well, first things first. You don't want to be a fool and leave and not have your business affairs in order. So, matter of fact, Lauren was there, as well as my attorneys. And the funny thing is about that, you sitting up there ranking your kids again. Let me see. Charlotte deserves how much? Bossy, she left Colorado to go elsewhere. Let me see. Like you're really going through this stuff. Making sure your mama's straight. Yeah, I'm serious. You rank your kids too. I'm not the only one. So you had to deal with that and going through that. So you're straight. But the second part of that question was.
Basically, just reflecting back on from that point to this point, I mean, how, I guess, the range of emotions you experienced when you heard.
I'm always positive, man. I would get upset when my body don't allow me to do the things that I want to do, and she can attest to that. I mean, you got to understand, I'm out in the morning at 7 a.m. Lauren, let's go, baby. Let's hit this walk. Let's get this walk. And I got 2 bags full of blood and urine with me walking. Like I'm like, let's go, because you know what? Doc told me I got to walk. Right?
Yep.
And I walked with 1.3, right? At least 1.3.
At least 1.3.
Yeah, so until the time that I couldn't. So I've never looked down. I'm always looking up, and I'm always trying to go get it because I want to be the best Prime I could be for everybody. For everybody.
And then my second part was, sorry about related to football, but you have a great coaching staff. How much have you relied on that, and how much will we rely on them this season, maybe to help out?
I don't have to rely on them. I'm back, baby. I'm back. I don't rely on them no more. I'm going to be with them. The Bible says, remember the rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Okay, so we're going to comfort one another. And I love them. We have a wonderful staff, and thank God that they're good enough that I don't have to babysit. I don't have to be there every minute too. And I know they got that. It ain't like I told them anything. I think they found out yesterday like the team found out. They didn't know. And first of all, Constance, let me thank God for our team, Sam, our team that didn't disclose this to anyone.
Well, there you have it, folks. A good share of the Deion Sanders update. As he mentioned, he has been cured, in his words, of bladder cancer. Scary diagnosis, but one he seems to have dealt with a lot of grace and wanting to, of course, as you see there, get his message out to folks and have them get checked up if they feel like they have symptoms of the situation. We wanted to remind folks we do continue to keep an eye on that breaking news out of New York City. Sad news where there's an active shooter situation that's transpired where we've now learned that a New York City police officer is now dead and 4 civilians shot as well. Their status unknown at this point as far as their conditions, but this will be something we'll certainly be watching to give you updates on when the news at 11 comes here on WCNC Plus. It's been a busy evening. We appreciate you sticking with us here on Live Impact News. We will, of course, have updates for you, not just on the news at 11, but also on our website, WCNC.com, as we are able to get updates for you there. All right, I think our time's up here, Jeb.